So for this mock exercise, we're going to analyze the impact on inventory turnover with 5 series of transactions or potential errors made by the company Patel. Let's take a look at the question. So this question, we're given 5 different transactions or economic event for Patel, and we're asked to look at each of these individual transactions independently and determine the impact to inventory turnover ratio. So before we actually go into the actual question or the transaction, let's take a look at the formula for inventory turnover. So inventory turnover is a ratio that measures the efficiency in how quickly or how fast can the company turn its inventory to cost of goods sold. In other words, how quickly are they able to sell the inventory. So the formula is cost of goods sold divided by average inventory. And average inventory is beginning inventory plus ending inventory divided by 2. That's what average inventory is. So that's the formula. So let's look at the first transaction or error. So the accounting clerk for Patel made a multiplication error in calculating inventory that resulted in an overstatement of ending inventory. So if I look at the formula, you notice that if ending inventory is overstated, that means that the denominator is going to be larger than what it should have been. That means that average inventory is overstated. And with average ending inventory overstated, turnover is understated, right? So the fact that if ending inventory is overstated, the average inventory is overstated, the impact of turnover is understated. Okay? Let's look at number 2. The cost of goods sold purchased was reduced by moving to a cheaper supplier. So that means that if the cost of goods sold is lower because now we are moving to a cheaper supplier, that means that the numerator in this formula will be lower, which means that the turnover will decrease. Is lower or decrease. Okay? Let's look at number 3. Number 3 says, during the times of rising prices, FIFO was misapplied in calculating ending inventory by using the oldest cost rather than the most recent cost. So what does this mean? It means that if we're using FIFO, right? So under FIFO, first in, first out, it means that the cheaper goods are in cost of goods sold. And it means that the ending inventory has the more recent prices, which are normally higher. So in this under FIFO, the cheaper goods means the cost of goods sold is going to be much less, and the ending inventory will be much higher, which means that the turnover would decrease or would be lower. But because the accountant misapplied and instead the ending inventory were the older costs, so now this is, in this case, by the error, the ending inventory is essentially understated, which means that turnover is overstated. So because of the error made, ending inventory is understated, which means the denominator of this formula is understated. That means that the average inventory is understated. And that means that the turnover, inventory turnover is overstated. That means it's going to be much higher than what it should have been. Okay? So it's important to actually understand what's going on here. So under FIFO, normally, because of under FIFO, under rising prices, cost of goods, the cheaper goods are going to be sold first. So they're going to be in cost of goods sold, and that means that the ending inventory will have the more recent prices. So in that case, if we were to apply the FIFO properly in the costing methodology, then if this is lower and this is higher, it's going to create a lower inventory turnover because the ending inventory is going to have the more recent prices, which are higher prices, and this is going to be lower. It's going to be decrease. But because the error was made, and you can see that the ending inventory is understated because we were putting in the lower prices, then by understating ending inventory means the turnover will be overstated from what it should have been. Okay? Now let's look at number 4. Number 4 says goods in transit related to purchases made on FOB shipping point. So FOB shipping point means that the goods are the purchaser at the time of shipment. So those goods are in transit should be part of Patel's ending inventory. Well, they were not recorded in inventory, nor they were recorded in the physical count. So in number 4, the ending inventory is understated, which means that the average inventory is understated. If the average inventory is understated, then inventory turnover should be overstated. Okay? Because they should have counted the ending inventory. It should have been part of the denominator. So in this case, if ending inventory is understated, then the average inventory is understated, which means that the turnover is overstated. Okay? Now finally, it says operating expenses increased. Well, if you look at the formula, operating expense has nothing to do with inventory turnover. Therefore, for number 5, there's be no effect. So operating expenses are not part of turnover ratio, and therefore it has no effect on increase in operating expenses on inventory turnover. Thank you.